All right. So this evening, we're going to talk about best practices for interviewing patients, clients, an exploration of nutrition intervention, and writing learning objectives as a basis for nutrition intervention. And can everyone hear me all right? Okay, very good. Effective communication is important in all aspects of our lives, not just in dialogue with our patients or clients or with colleagues and peers. In professional engagement, of course, we should be focused on what our purpose is and what our objectives need to be. The 5 elements of communication may seem obvious or mundane. They are certainly automatic in most circumstances. First, there is someone who is sending the communication. Then we have the message itself. It is the information that's being communicated. Next, there is a channel of communication, and we may need a method of communication. Am I writing this message? Am I speaking of it? Am I sending an electronic message? Do I use body language, facial expression, tone of voice, and so on? Or if I'm emailing, would I dare put something in all capital letters? Well, occasionally you will find me capitalizing things for emphasis. So all of these methods communicate. And then who is the intended object of the communication? That will be the receiver. And finally, feedback. This is the response from the receiver to the sender. And it can take different forms. It may be a formal written response or facial expression. And then moving from these basics, we consider how best to communicate our message. Let's consider this interview situation in relation to a patient interview or nutrition screening. So I'd like you to think about these, and you can unmute your microphones and then please respond. So when we're preparing, how might you prepare for a patient interview? If you were going to do a nutrition screening, what might you do before you went to visit the patient?
You may want to talk to their aides and understand that what their feedback is on the patients, just so that you're more comfortable walking in to understand the status.
Very good. And something else. What will give us background information, more extensive background information?
Family.
And I'm thinking electronic.
Their electronic medical record.
That's exactly right. Yes. So we would want to review that for their past medical history, why they were admitted, and some other details. So when we go for that interview, sometimes we're verifying what's actually in the medical record. Other times we're capturing new data. All right. And then when we're establishing rapport, what does this mean?
We're gaining trust from the resident, so that the experience will be more comfortable for them.
Yes, exactly. So we're trying to put them at ease. Now that's a little tricky as a an intern. When you're going into a new situation, you're the one that's probably a little more nervous or anxious about those first few interactions. But once you conduct those, you'll be off and running. So then you are exactly right. It is really all about focusing not on you, but on the patient, resident, or client, to put them at ease and feel that we know what we're talking about and what information we need to capture. All right, gaining their trust. All right, then the next point, conducting the interview. So I'd like you to think for a moment. And can you provide me with some examples of an open-ended question? Any kind of question. Or if you
How are
would,
you feeling today?
very good. Okay, that's great. That is not a yes or no question. That is something that they have to fill in the blanks. That makes it an open-ended question. All right, anyone else want to pose another open-ended question?
Could you ask, what do you, for your 3 meals a day, what do you normally, what is your, I don't know the word for it,
You're on the right track. Yeah.
like for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like basically ask like what that looks like for them.
Yes, exactly. That is open-ended. That's terrific. Okay. Now, how about what's a close-ended question look like?
Did you eat lunch today?
Yes, very good. Yes or no. You're not going to get much more than that if they're not a chatty patient. Okay, very good. And then I'd like to make sure that you look at the folder in Blackboard on reflective listening, because you need to respond to what that is, rephrasing a statement in one of your assignments. That's going to be on a quiz or an exam coming up too. So reflective listening, we're not going to talk about that right now. All right, and then closing the interview. What does this involve? Do you just walk out of the room, or what might you say or do?
For the time he gave me,
Say that one more time, Jennifer. I didn't catch it all.
thank him for the time he gave me to fill his report.
Yes, that's perfect. Yes, a thank you for that time. Very good. What, anything else you might say or do?
You could ask them if they have any questions.
Very good. Very good. And can you think of one other thing? Oh, I see your mouth, Jennifer, but I don't hear your voice. Go ahead. Try again. No. Try it now. Oh, no. It looks like your microphone is on, but we're not hearing anything. Might you have bumped a cord or done something?
You can put it in the chat if you want.
Oh, sure. Yeah, good idea. Thanks, Tammy. And Delaney, I see your response in the chat, but I don't see you. Oops, sorry. Okay, so there's one other thing that I was thinking about, and that is that you might, oh, there's some other information from Jennifer. Yes, if they need additional information, that's great, regarding food assistance. Super. Okay. And it might be, what if you're following up with them? You might prepare them for that. You might say, I'll be back tomorrow for blah, blah, blah. So a little bit of expectation. Good. All right. There are many roadblocks to good communication. The first one that really comes to my mind is the very first one. So what does it mean if you use too much professional jargon?
You could be using acronyms or very technical terminology that the resident wouldn't understand.
Right, that's right. Exactly. And that actually diminishes them. It makes them feel that they don't know very much. And so now we've lost their trust. So we don't need to sound like a smarty pants. We just need to do our job and say things in a very simple manner that they will understand. Okay, and then the second one, speaking too fast. I'm a little guilty of this when I'm nervous. But in our setting with elderly patients, especially in long-term care, or in the hospital when we have older folks, is that if we speak too softly because we're shy or quiet or worried about what we're going to say, that won't help the situation. So it's very important that we speak clearly enough. And you might ask them, especially if they have a hearing aid, you might verify, can you hear me all right? All right, and then I won't go over all of the rest of those, but we'll make this PowerPoint, of course, available for you to review. This information is also in the Blackboard content. Let's see. Yeah, all right, I think we can go on. So mastering these concepts of communication implies that team members, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Mastering the concepts of team communication implies that team members support one another, they respect differences, they interject ideas and concerns responsibly. So again, kind of moving beyond the patient, client, resident territory is our engagement with other members of the healthcare team. Being clear and concise when we're communicating and gaining their trust as well. I realize some of this sounds very commonsensical, but we need to emphasize them even though they're simple concepts because we forget about them. They tend to sometimes disappear into the background. All right, so what are some things that we might do to connect with others? So I'm posing this to all of you. So if you were going for a nutrition screening, let's kind of go through the litany of that. What happens there from the very beginning? Just jump in. You walk in the room and
Knock first.
very good. That's great. And you might also say, may I come in? All right. And then what? Sounds so simple, but what is the simplicity of it?
Introduce yourself.
That's right. And besides your name, you might introduce,
Your title.
yes, and your reason for being there or your purpose. So they get the idea of why you've come to see them. All right. Then there is something else that I would encourage you to do, and that would be that you might ask for permission to ask them a few questions. You might say, is this a good time for me to ask you a few questions? I just have a few. If you say that, they won't think that you're there forever, and they can watch their show that's coming on the TV in 15 minutes. Okay. All right, and then of course, those questions are going to be your litany of details that you need from your screening form, or questions that you've come across when you looked at the medical records, things that you need clarification for. And then what also must we do when we're with this patient? Jennifer. Yeah, I see identify. right, empathy. Something, there's one other thing I'm looking for.
Listen to them.
Listen to them. Yes, exactly. We want to listen. So listen, listen, listen. And the other things that you were on the track for there, Jennifer, about expressing empathy, caring, understanding, very, very important. Okay. And then we might ask for clarification. What if we don't understand something they said to us? What do we do? Do we just brush over it?
Ask them to repeat gently.
That's right. That's right. I want to ask them to restate it to make sure we're on the right track or the same page. Okay. And then I think, Tammy, you mentioned something about questions. Maybe that was the last slide that we were talking about, but you want to respond to any questions that they would have, and then explaining what comes next. And we also touched on thanking them and explaining if there's going to be any follow-up. Okay. We hear repeatedly from our students during the summer supervised practice that they wish they had experiences to practice patient interviews before meeting patients face to face in the hospital, sort of taking the edge off of that situation. Thus, the creation of this activity last year. And so let me unshare for a moment. Just a minute. All right, and I'm going to go into our assignments folder and I'll share this screen. Okay, so what we're going to do is assignment B, here and now. So this asks each of you to interview one of your peers, and this is just a low stakes activity just to get your feet wet. I've provided you all with a bit of a transcript or basic script. You're welcome to deviate from that if you wish. But the point is here that you're going to practice the basic elements of a good interview. And then following the interview, you'll be completing an assignment called Tell Me. And it's just responding to a few questions as a reflection. And let's see. So the other thing I would like to know is if you like this little activity, if you felt this was a good thing to do, if you want to practice it again this semester or in medical nutrition therapy. So keep me posted. So let's take about 15 or 20 minutes to practice interviewing each other. And I'll set up some breakout rooms. You'll disappear into those, and then we'll come back together on the other side of that encounter. The first time, one of you is going to be the interviewer, and the other time you'll be the patient, and then just switch. So you can certainly practice this activity more than once. We don't have to take all 20 minutes either. You can use it to chit chat with each other a little bit about assignments and so on. But if you're finished, just send a chat message that you're ready to break out of that breakout time. And if I see that from several folks, then I'll release everybody so we can come back together. So in looking down through here, you might have your own Blackboard course open. It really just leads you right through that interview. I hope you've had a little time to take a look at that leading up to today also. All right. So any questions about what we're going to do? All right. Delaney, I'm glad you could join us. You made it. All right. Do you know what we're doing?
Just interview questions.
Right. Did you see those questions in our course?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we've got an even 6 here. So Jennifer, you and I'm going to put you and Marwa together. You're both 2 of our distance students. And so I should share with everyone, Jennifer, you're in the Philadelphia area, and Marwa, you're in Texas. All right. So Marwa, you're actually a little earlier than we are. What time is it in Texas?
5:57.
Okay, so we're interfering with your dinner hour. I'm so sorry, but
No,
I'm glad you could make it. Good. All right. So let me put the 2 of you together. And if you have difficulty, I would just say pick up your phones, and maybe Jennifer, you might be able to reach out to Marwa by phone and communicate in that way while you're still looking at, at each other on the Zoom session. So, okay, let me get this set up here.